Am I audible, technical team?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, fine. Okay. A very good morning to all. I'm Manish Bhelande from IT department, SAKEC. Welcomes you all on the 6-day session for our refresher program on developing secure IoT application. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Anjali Evle, who is assistant professor at Vivekanand Education Society Institute of Technology, Chembur, Mumbai. So Dr. Anjali has completed her PhD in technology from Mumbai University. She published various research papers in international journals and conferences that includes IEEE, ACM, Springer, and peer reviews. She also co-authored of 2 books, Information Management and Internet of Everything. She also reviewed books like Computer Organization and Architecture and Internet of Things. She completed her Microsoft certification for cryptography and system security and also a Star Education certified IoT trainer. Her areas of interest are IoT, distributed computing, cloud computing, system security, and web technology. She also delivered and conducted various workshops, seminars, expert talks, and also patent innovative idea for her research work. I'm very sure this session will be the best informative session for all of us. So before hand over to our speakers, I have few announcement for the participants. All the participants, if you have any queries in between the session, please write in the question answers section. The frequently asked questions will be asked at the end of the session. Also, the feedback link will be provided in the chat box, emails, as well as in our WhatsApp group at the end of the session. Now, I request our speaker, Dr. Anjali, to take over the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction. Am I
Yes,
audible?
yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Just a second, I'll share my screen. Just quickly give me your feedback whether my screen is visible. Is my screen visible, sir?
Yes, ma'am, yes, it is very visible.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, hello everyone. Hope everyone is safe and fine. Today I'm going to discuss about developing secure web application, and while developing that secure web application or the secure IoT application, we require some tools so that we can test whatever whatever protocol or whatever algorithm we have proposed, is that going in a right direction or not. So that simulator I have chosen here for discussion is a Koja. I'll try to keep my session as generalized as possible so that it will be easy to grasp all the aspects of security in IoT as well as how to use Koja simulator. Now my topic, my session, I have divided it in the 5 small modules. Firstly, I'll discuss with IoT ecosystem and what all are the chances of hacking into it. Then what all are the challenges faced by different areas for adoption of IoT, and then few recent attacks those actually took place on the IoT network, and then we will move towards the implementation part where I'll be showing you implementation of small simulations so that you will get an idea how to make use of Koja simulator. So my talk will go in this 5 small modules. So let me start with the session. Now here I have used word that is IoT ecosystem. So let me tell you one fact, your IoT application, that IoT application consists of many more components into it. See, when we visualize IoT application, what we see is there are different sensors, those they are deployed actually on the area. Suppose it is a hospital, all the IoT sensors, those they are deployed there in the hospital. These all sensors, they are sending data. That data get collected somewhere at the processor here. This processor sends that data to a router so that this router will transfer that data to a cloud. Here on cloud, that data gets saved, and when user is actually working or the doctor's patient, they are actually accessing, they go to a mobile device and they access their data, they access their reports. So just deploying sensors and connecting it with the processor, it's not an IoT application. We require further more thing, that is whatever data has been collected, that data needs to be transferred. So some network is required which should come in picture. Nowadays, we are in the era of big data where we call that data is a fuel for machine learning. Also, there are so many algorithms and it says that your data is a fuel. But who generates that data? Your IoT devices are the one, those they generate that data. So that data, where it should get saved, again the answer is no one has that much capacity to store data, because IoT devices or IoT sensors, they send information every after few fraction of second. A huge amount of data get generated. So that needs to be saved somewhere. So there is a cloud. There are different cloud service providers. Those they are available in the market. To name a few: Amazon, IBM, Google, Arctic. These are the few cloud providers. Those they actually give you entire interface. So you need not to worry about the storage and everything. They will give you API, and with those APIs, your entire application can easily get connected to a cloud. But when your data is getting stored there on a cloud, whenever your data is getting retrieved from a cloud, what are the security, what all are the security requirements are there? Are they really provided by this cloud provider? What all security measures to be taken care of here in my network? These are the many questions, those they come along with this IoT application, and that is why I have used here word IoT ecosystem. It's a complete system, and if you want to secure IoT application, then it is not like you are securing only this much portion, or you are only taking security measures there in cloud, or you are only taking security measures whenever there is a user interface and user is accessing that data. No, in order to provide IoT security, you need to have this complete system which needs to be protected. The security measures needs to be considered at each and every point there. Sorry. But so we were here, sorry for that. So all these components needs to be protected. All these components need some or the other care to be taken in order to take a security measures. So let us see few applications, those they falls under this IoT ecosystem, and so that I'll be able to explain different types of attacks those they are taking place. So now this is my first ecosystem which I have taken here is the smart home. And then if you see the second colorful diagram, that is a smart buildings. Now roughly I'll say that it is kind of today. It is kind of today that we are in this era, and it is kind of our tomorrow. Tomorrow we will have all these things, or rather I'll say it's not exactly the tomorrow. Like nowadays maximum buildings, they have this IoT enabled features. So we can treat it like it is now today itself. Like earlier we used to have that is only a home which is IoT enabled. Only in a house we used to have lights, those they are getting switched on and off with the help of a few buttons on a mobile phone. We used to have a IoT enable AC, managing a AC temperature, or if I am returning from office, it's so hot, I can switch on my AC before I reaching home so that I get a cool environment. Then I can have a web camera, that is to be IoT enabled web camera, so that I can see what all things are happening inside my house. So this is particularly when we say it is just an house which is IoT enabled. But if you see today's era, that today's era says that not only your one house to be IoT enabled, now we have complete building, and that building is IoT enabled building. And if you see security of entire building to be taken care with the IoT enabled devices, lightning system of this entire building should be IoT enabled. So now if there is no need, no one is there in that area, particular area, light should get switched off. So we can imagine the electricity bill which is going to save. Then this HVAC, which stands for heating, ventilation, air conditioning. So the entire building heating, ventilation, air conditioning system is IoT enabled. Fire safety is IoT enabled. 24/7 monitoring is there. So if someone you find like a person who had never entered in the building and this is a totally new phase, nowhere, and that person's behavior is not that much confident, or that person is find to be someone kind of a thief or something, immediately alarm should get generated. Plus it should have an energy management which is IoT enabled. So if you see in this diagram, everything is mentioned over there and everything get access there with the help of mobile. So this is what the present system which is available there for the IoT enabled smart buildings. But think of suddenly all lights of a building going off because somebody or the intruder or the hacker who got access to your building IoT network, and that person had switched off all the lights. Similarly, here also in a house, as we have seen that refrigerators also can be IoT enabled. When we say the refrigerator is IoT enabled means it's keep a track how much milk is there, whatever is the quantity, whatever the items you want to put in that list. And if that milk quantity is below certain threshold level, like it is only half a liter, then in that case it should directly place an order to a vendor saying that deliver milk to XYZ house. But when this refrigerator is placing this order, and while placing that order, refrigerator is asking for a credit card details. I'm again repeating that refrigerator is asking for credit card details. Definitely it is something fishy. In order to put order for 1 liter milk or something, credit card details are not at all required. So that is what something fishy, and this is quite possible in this scenario. See, as you know, there are different worms, there are different viruses, there are different malwares, those they are in picture. So it kind of a Trojan which can be placed in order to get users credit card details. So rather than it is going to actual bank account, it may be some intruder who is capturing your those details, and that may be misused later on. But if such a kind of scenarios are happening, then it's really a need to rework on the IoT network. And again, I am repeating one thing, that in IoT, you can't secure only one component. It's a complete ecosystem which you need to secure. Second point is security cannot be added at the end over the top of your application. Security needs to be added for application right from its requirement gathering, right from its design phase, right from like very first meeting whenever or for that project starts, the security requirements also to be taken care equally. Then only it is possible to defend the attacks those they are taking place. Let us consider the second example, which is highways. Smart highways is the concept nowadays. So on our highways, we see that if the driver is having alcohol or something, that gets detected with the help of alcohol sensor. Or we say that there are speedometers. If speed exceeds beyond certain limit, messages get exchanged. Are they really a smart highways? Then answer comes no. There are many more things those they are missing on those. Like when real smart highway concept comes in, it says that the cars those they are moving, they will literally transferring messages to each other with the help of those like they are talking to each other in terms of predicting traffics. If it's a battery enabled card, and that car should be able to transfer charging as well. That is also what the concept is. Netherlands has this project of smart highways. What they have done is, rather than keeping highway lights on for entire night, they have small glowing strips which are around the highway, and those strips glows. So during daytime, with the help of solar energy, they charge up, and at night they radiate the light so that the driver get a sense that the road is going in which direction. Then a few of the smart highways, what they have is, they where there is a snowfall which takes place regularly, they have a snow melt system using electricity or kind of a solar plate, or it can be using hot water. So think of a scenario, there is a snowfall and the road is blocked because of snowfall. Generally what happens is, there we need to wait for the few people to come in, and those generally they are from army or somewhere. They remove that snow and then the highway starts working. But in this smart highway project, the concept is, there should be some hot water running where, as and when there is a small snowfall, or the plates, those they are there below this road, those plates should get heated. Again, it's a IoT technology which is coming in. But again, the think of, if some intruder who is driving a car, and that intruder wants this entire system of smart highway to fail, that intruder can very well insert any kind of a malware, or that intruder can very well transmit a wrong information, so that the traffic flow or the traffic analysis which is taken place, which predicts that what traffic is there, it goes wrong. That is a quite possible in this entire application. One more example is of smart parking. So generally we have parking like in which the only time limit is considered, and based on the time limit it predicts the fare, that this much amount you should pay. But see this second diagram. In this diagram, so many sensors are used in order to implement smart parking system. So here it is, first of all, a parking sensor available. That parking sensor checks whether that particular parking lot is available or not. Then each and every car has some electronic tags, so it becomes very easy to find out which which car is parked at that particular location. It has a geomagnetism detection, so that the location and everything can be traced out very easily. Plus some RFID cards are there, those they are going to radiate the information. Then if you see, there is a communication base station, everyone communicates to this base station. Plus apart from the sensors, there is a CCTV also installed, so it's a two-way cross checking, so that it becomes very easy to find out which parking slot is available, and then that parking slot can be allotted to a new car which is coming in. And then with the help of some Wi-Fi 3G 4G system, it get connected to a management system, and then it accesses the data on the mobile. This is what the complete picture is. Here let me tell you one thing, like Spain, they have started this smart parking project, and they literally make use of radar technology in order to identify which parking space is available. And the accuracy they have for their smart parking, it's like 99%, it's accurate. But again, in this application, see the huge network, see the span of this entire application. So many transactions are taking place, so many places data is getting exchanged, it gets transferred to a management information system, it can be a cloud. Again, this entire application needs to be secured. Otherwise, what hacker can do is, they can put some false information in such a way that even though all parking slots are available, it will show always that there is no parking slot available. So that way, the working of smart parking can be hacked. One more example is, as we know, we all are in the era of digitization. It's industry 4.0. All industries, they are switching towards automation. Not only automation, but it's a remote control kind of a IoT automation, because automation part they have already done, but they are switching towards the IoT network. So in a factory, if there is a boiler available, then after a appropriate temperature, that boiler should get switched off. So the temperature sensor senses the temperature, there is an actuator, and that actuator switch off that at appropriate moment. Entire factory. So you see, earlier days, this factory that people, those they used to go to a factory in order to check all the machineries and everything. Now that person need not to go to a factory to see. It is today's industry where everything is available here on the tab. That person can access each and every machinery which is available there in his industry with the help of a tab. They can rather control everything with the help of a tab. So it's a good kind of a mixture which is available there, where your all industry components connected with the help of sensors, actuators. Each component generates a huge amount of data. So it falls under the example of big data as well. But this is what the today's industry is. And like all maximum all of the industries, those they are there. So only with the help of a user interface, they are accessing all the components, those they are there in the industry. But think of, in this user interface itself, someone had inserted some malware. Or if I'm saying like boiler 1, I'm working with boiler 1, message is getting transferred to boiler 2. Again, this kind of a hacking is quite possible, whereas this kind of a hacking got faced many times. Recently, 2-3 days back, I was reading about some news was there. Later on, it came with some or the other discussion on it, that Mumbai faced a problem of a power failure in the first week of November. So there was something like some worms or viruses. It was a sabotage which was run on the SCADA system, and because of that, the entire grid came down, or something or the other kind of discussion it was going on. So again, that is because of the hacking which takes place in the network. One more example I would like to take is, which is a very crucial example, because IoT is nowadays very well in use with the help of healthcare. So again, I'll show you that this is our earlier days, that the person used to have a few person used to have few sensors installed on the body, and those sensors, they generally transmit data. So that person may be having temperature sensor, heart rate sensor, BP monitoring sensor, and continuously one more sensor shown here is a motion sensor. So whether that person is walking or not walking, that also can be detected. And all these sensors, they send the information with the help of a mobile Bluetooth Zigbee, with the help of internet, and that gets stored somewhere on the device. And if anything goes wrong with this fellow, if like his heart rate increases, or his BP shoots up, immediately the emergency message gets sent to an ambulance, to a family, and as well as to a doctor. That is what this complete network says. Now, my body parameters. I like, if a person, whatever disease a person has, people doesn't want those things to be disclosed. So my body parameters, whatever disease I have, those information is like privacy has to be taken care of, all those informations very well. But if hacker comes in, hacker can read all these parameters, those they are getting transferred from a person's body to the entire network. Or it can happen is that hacker, instead of transferring actual body parameters, hacker can come in and can put the fraud information like his oxygen level. Let us say oxygen level is 99 at present, but that hacker has replaced that 99 with just a 9. So in that case, a false alarm will get generated to everyone. So again, if the algorithm or the data exchange protocol, which is not designed properly, this kind of a hacking is quite possible. Then the second diagram which I have put up over here, it's a IoT enabled hospital. So see, the hospital means it needs to consider staff members, it needs to consider whatever assets are there in that hospital, all equipments, medicines, as well as it needs to consider patients. So reading patients' body parameters using IoT enabled devices, it is a very small portion of this IoT enabled hospital. So now let me give you one example that one hospital, suppose it has 4 ventilators and it's a 5-story building. Each floor has 10 rooms on it. So it has totally 50 rooms and only 5 ventilators are there. So as and when required, ventilators needs to be switched. But whenever there is a need, then it becomes very difficult to track. If sometimes someone forgets to update where that ventilator has been deployed, then that ward boy literally needs to run across all the rooms to find out where the ventilator is located. But if that ventilator has some RFID detection on it, then it will become very easy. Then RFID, there will be a reader, reader will start reading and reader will be able to trace out exactly in which room that ventilator is placed. So it is going to save energy of that ward boy, as well as it's going to save a timing. One more example I would like to give here is hospitals. They have many pipelines for oxygen, for nitrogen. They have pipelines and those pipelines carries this gases and all. And those, they are generally operated by a ward boy, switch on and off for those pipelines. But nowadays, with the help of this IoT enabled hospitals, it becomes easy to switch on and switch off those gas pipelines, oxygen pipeline or something, as and when required. Then again, the thing is doctors and nurses. So it also becomes very difficult to track in which room doctor is, in which room nurse is. So think of they are having a RFID enabled wristband so that it becomes easy to track them. But again, see, all these IoT enable applications which we say, they have a very good perspective. And those, they are going to give us a very good outcome. It is like it is going to save energy, time, and it is going to take our healthcare to the another level where the patient care will be taken more. Because if you see, generally our nurses, they are busy in reading patient's body parameter. Actually their work is to take care of a patient. But if I have this IoT enabled sensor installed on patient's body, those sensors, they will keep on doing their work, sending information to doctor's mobile. So nurses can very well take care of patient. So it is going to totally improve the healthcare system which we have. But again, the point is, if this application which we say is not designed properly with all the perspective, its network is not deployed properly with all the perspectives of security, then very well hacking is possible into it. One point of time, it may be possible that entire working system of this hospital can go down. Because we say that my entire hospital should be the IoT enabled hospital. I will show you few hacks those actually took place on healthcare related equipments in few years back. So it will give you more idea about it. So I have purposefully taken all these applications and I have purposefully like pinpointed few points in that each and every application, which kind of hacking is possible there. So when we see, when we put all these things together, it becomes your complete smart city, which has everything into it, which is smart, which has everything into it, which is a IoT enabled thing. And let me tell you, this is not a dream. This is a reality. Actually, the European countries, what they found is they found that the air pollution is a silent killer. Because of air pollution, there are many more diseases, those they are coming in. And so what they decided is they decided to undergo one project, and that project name is TARA-FAIR. That TARA-FAIR stands for Traffic Flow to Improve Air Quality. So they study everything, and then based on that the traffic flow get regulated and all. So their goal is like in 2020 all the European cities should be free from air pollution. And whatever project they have started, they are making smart cities, and that too with the help of IoT enabled devices. And for a small prototype kind of a purpose, they have initially selected only 5 cities, and in those 5 cities, in the month of March, the Santiago Compostela is the city which got award of most clean city in this European cities. And that city is completely IoT enabled. Whatever solution they have implemented for this smart city, it's completely the IoT enabled city. There was one incident also. There was some gas leakage which was there offshore in the sea, somewhere middle in the sea. But because of the sensors those they are deployed, like 6 kilometers away or 7 kilometers away also that leakage was detected. And that was the case in somewhere Alaska. And that was possible only because of the IoT sensors those they were deployed over there. So the point is, whatever discussion we carried out up till now, whatever applications we have seen up till now, they are the reality. They are actually implemented in few parts of countries in order to achieve this dream of smart city. And again, one point to observe is there are so many sensors deployed for each and every application. All sensors are generating data, and every data get deposited there in a cloud. And as I already mentioned, there are many cloud providers for IoT in market, and those cloud providers, they are doing really a good job. Whatever the cloud services they have provided for IoT, they have done the implementation part of the security very well for the storage of that data while retrieving that data, encryption, decryption. And most of these clouds, they are working on MQTT protocol, so that the data transmission is very well managed over there. So this is what we have. I was my first point, that is the IoT ecosystem, and to check like where all attacks are possible. So just to start with the next topic, I have just placed the picture of few sensors because these are the actual players in IoT market. They are the one those they actually capture information, and then that information get transferred to the processors. So these are the actually one those they are the players in this IoT market. So there are so many sensors available. You name a sensor and nowadays you will find that sensor which is available. Few colorimetric sensors are also available. The Ebola disease, that detects it with the help of the color change on a strip. Soil humidity sensors. So many sensors are available. These sensors, they are not at all intelligent. What they have is they just senses whatever changes are there around their periphery, and then they react accordingly. So the point is, if I want to implement the secure IoT network, the challenge lies there, because your sensors are going to transfer data. But the sensors, do they have storage? Do they have processing power? When the data which is captured by sensors get transferred to a processor. So see, here I have put up the things like all these are the sensors, those they are sensing information. That information comes here to a Arduino board. Then this Arduino board, with the help of routers, it visits multiple routers, it goes through entire network, and then it get transferred there onto a cloud. You will find so many clouds over there. So now think of a scenario in this case. There comes one more sensor here. This sensor is actually not a sensor which is supposed to be part of this particular network, but some hacker has deployed this sensor. And this Arduino board is actually responsible for reading parameter generated by these sensors. They might be having some encryption decryption mechanism, and encrypted data is getting transferred. Let us not talk about that part. But this is like this Arduino board is reading data from the 4 sensors. But the hacker has deployed one more sensor, and what this sensor is doing is continuously this sensor sends data. So this Arduino board is busy in just reading the data which is sent by this sensor continuously. And Arduino board is not now capable of handling whatever data is sent by this sensor. Your Arduino board is it's a microcontroller. It has a very small processing power. It has a very small memory. It's not a kind of your computer which has a full-fledged core, 4-core machine or some huge processing power. If you will have that kind of a devices in your network, then it's going to increase the cost of your project by so many times, which is actually not feasible. So this Arduino board is now busy in just acknowledging this sensor, whereas the actual sensors, what they are sending. So let us consider these are the sensors installed on patient's body. This is a temperature sensor. This is a blood pressure monitoring sensor. This is a heart rate sensor. Then this is suppose your oximeter. So suppose this is about the crucial information. It's a patient's vital body parameters, those they are getting transferred, and this application actually supposed to read those vital parameters. This Arduino board needs to transfer information. See, so if anything goes wrong with the patient, then appropriate care can be taken. That is what the requirement of this particular project is. But actually that is not happening. It is busy, and this is nothing but it's a denial of service attack. So what can be done is whenever sensor transfers information to a Arduino board, it can be very well authenticated. First, authenticate that whether the authentic sensor is only sending information and then only start working. So this kind of a problem is getting avoided. Now, suppose it is transferring a temperature. Suppose the temperature of body is 36.1. and that temperature getting transferred, but there is no encryption decryption mechanism applied. So whoever can put a Wireshark. Wireshark is the best tool again for IoT as well to capture whatever data is getting transferred. So they can easily transfer this body or whatever is the value which is present over there, and that value can be modified. So instead of transferring as a 36, it can be transferred as 40. It is a tampering of data. That is also quite possible. So whatever data transmission takes place, encryption and decryption needs to be allowed there. So basically, if you see the challenges, those they are faced in adoption of IoT, the very first challenge is the security concern. Second challenge is privacy. So see, even though we need to deploy IoT project, there is a cost factor involved. All the employees of that organizations needs to be trained in order to handle that. But people are not worried about those. What is the cost factor involved in changing your IoT enabled network for your business, or what all are the skill sets required, but they are more worried about the security and privacy. This graph I have taken from the Gartner survey. Then so whatever so many hacks we have discussed up till now. So if you see this is what a OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project. They are a non-profit based organization. Every year they publish list of top 10 vulnerabilities. Now here I have listed top 10 vulnerabilities for IoT applications, but they do provide for mobile applications as well as for web applications. So according to them, these are the vulnerabilities available in IoT application, and because of this vulnerabilities, the hacking which takes place on IoT network which has been increased. So what the very first vulnerability is, weak guessable hard coded passwords. See, as I have already mentioned, these devices, they have less storage, they have less processing power. So generally the what they do is the password which is set, it is like a weak password, or most of the times in a hardware itself that password is hard coded. So if it is get revealed, or if it is known to anyone once, it means like your security has been compromised. Insecure network services, firewall, IDS, those they are used for securing your network. Now IoT network also should have firewall and IDS. Without that, you won't be able to secure. But actually, it's a research domain which is open, the firewalls or IDS for IoT enabled networks to construct. Because again, I will pinpoint to the same point. It's a huge network, many more components involved there. Few of them, they have very less processing power, very less storage. So how this thing should be placed, how this thing should work, it's again one research area which is available. Then the insecure ecosystem interface, as we have seen, data get transferred to cloud. So to talk to a cloud, this cloud service provider generally gives a API to a company who is actually implementing this IoT network. So with the help of API, they start transferring data to this cloud. But what is the guarantee that this API is a secure API? So there are many hacking took place, that is because of this API was not secure. Because what is API? API is just a function call. What all parameters to pass once it is revealed, then anyone can use that API and start transferring data, and that may result into denial of service attack. That may result into flooding attack. And while doing that, a person is like spoofing, that person is masquerading like I am someone XYZ, actually that person is not XYZ, but still transferring data. Lack of insecure update mechanism, as you know, the operating system, every now and then operating system patches get generated, and we do update our operating system so that we get a secure operating system. But these devices, whatever the devices, those they are already deployed. Few of the IoT devices, suppose they are for the mining application, those IoT sensors get deployed in a mine, and that is like few kilometers away from the earth surface. So if your devices are located in far remote areas, then whatever, see, you are pushing your security updates, but what is the guarantee that that device is updating itself? Whether that if that device is not able to update itself, something has to be done manually, but it becomes difficult to reach out to those devices. So then use of insecure and outdated components, as I said, the networks, they are very remote areas. So today you deploy one sensor, and basically what the sensor has a capability is they sleep for the duration when they are not sending information. Whenever they are sending information, they wake up and they start sending information. That way they save their life. That way they save their battery. So these components are generally, they are the long lasting components. One more point I would like to add here, maximum sensors, those they maximum all sensors, they have a data sheet. Whenever we use any sensor in our actual product development, check out data sheet of that particular sensor and then take a decision whether to use it or not. Data sheets gives you complete analysis of a sensor, because sometimes we have a query that whether this data whether the sensor which I am using will be rusted. Then your answer is available there in the data sheet for all the sensors. So kindly, whenever you deploy any IoT based application, read out the data sheet which is available for that sensor and then go for opting that sensor. All companies provides all sensors with the data sheets. So then inefficient privacy protection. Privacy is again the major concern which I have said. Then insecure data transfer and storage. I have already given an example. When temperature data is getting transferred, there is a possibility that that data may get changed. Then the lack of device management, yeah, because there are so many devices, it's a hectic job for the network administrator to manage everything. Insecure default setting, maximum times the IoT devices, they are used with the default setting. So they are there with the default password itself, and the default password of all these devices, it's publicly known. So anyone can know what exactly is the password of that device, and that person can easily hack into that particular thing. Then the lack of physical hardening. See, your devices, they continuously send information, as I have said, and a few of the devices, maximum of them, they have the mechanism of slip and then get up, and then they start transferring data. But there is a possibility hacking taking. If you want to read more, two references I have kept here itself, because this is a wonderful organization. They are doing very good job in order to improve security. Let me tell you one more point is their projects. They are open project. If you find any vulnerability and you know solution to overcome that vulnerability, you can put forth it to them. You can submit your solution there. It will be recognized with your name. So this kind of this organization works in that manner. So up till now we discussed only about this can be possible, or this way attack can take place in IoT network, and then we moved on to these all are the vulnerabilities, those they are there in IoT network. Next, I will go through few of the hacks those actually took place. These are not the things like they are just imagination. No, they actually took place. So in October 2016, there was a distributed denial of service attack, which was launched using IoT botnet, and Miraya botnet is the name of it. And because of it, the maximum networks, including Twitter, Netflix, they were down for a few minutes. And what this botnet was doing is, this was continuously searching a vulnerable IoT device available in a network, like any one of the vulnerability. So they have targeted one vulnerability, and that vulnerability is default username and passwords to log in. As I have already shown, it's a one of the vulnerability listed by Open Web Security Application Project as well. So they were simply finding on all IoT devices the device which you could log in with the default username and password. They used to log in into that device, and they were infecting that device with some of the malwares. So including digital cameras, including DVR player, everything they captured. So basically the vulnerability which was explored here is default username and password. If IoT enabled device is with default username and password, it becomes easy to log in, and then after logging into it, deploy a malware to infect that particular device. That was the hack. Then hackable cardiac devices. As I have mentioned already, that healthcare is the one which is making use of IoT enabled devices more as compared to other, like yeah, definitely industries are there, but they are the one major players for IoT enabled devices. So there is a pacemaker, as you know, it is there to manage the rhythm of a heart if a person had some heart related problems, and that way that person's heart functions can be managed very well. But few of the hacker, they found vulnerability into it, And that vulnerability is a transmitter that reads the device data and remotely shares it with the physician. So the hacker could control that device by accessing the transmitter which has. So you can imagine that person can literally change the rhythm of a heart. It may lead to a loss of a life. So that was a hack. Then there is a one more hack which took place, which was on baby heart monitor. Actually, foreign countries they are having this one device which measures the baby's body parameter. So when parents are away from home, they need not to worry about baby. Continuously, the baby's heart rate, temperature, movement, everything gets transferred to a mobile of a mother or father whose mobile number is registered there. So think of it such a great relief, because our kids, they are the very dear ones for us, and we are continuously getting information about them. Same thing is true for the pet animals as well. So those devices are also available, monitoring the body parameters of pet animals. But a few of the hacker, what they do is they found out vulnerability into this heart monitor, and they exploited that vulnerability, and like the baby actually could experience a heart trouble because of it, and it was a very dangerous attack. Then one more attack which took place, it was there up till January 2012, which is a webcam hack. Think of web camera installed in your house, and it is broadcasting whatever is happening around you. And somebody has obtained the IP address of that web camera, and that person is watching each and everything what is happening around. That person is really plotting all the graph, entire thing. So it's a dangerous thing. So but this hack happened. They got the hackers, they could find out the IP address, and the login name and password which was there in order to to do the validation part. That login name and password was not encrypted, so they could easily read out what is the login name and what is the password, so they could easily log into it and see everything. Then there was one more hack, which is a Jeep hack. As you know, there are few cars, Jeeps, those they are IoT enabled and they don't require drivers to drive on their own. They take a decision, and those cars are automated cars. But this Jeep was hacked, and that resulted into an accident. Then there was a one more famous hack which took place. It is for the insulin pumps. There's diabetic patients. Generally, they require to take insulin in their body. But their timings are fixed, their quantity is fixed, and if a person is in the meeting or something, it becomes very difficult that person to take that injection and inject the insulin in a body. So what this insulin pump does is, it's a small patch which is installed there on the patient's body. In the morning itself, you are going to put insulin there. So as soon as it's at 12 o'clock, it will start injecting 35 ml of insulin in the patient's body. As soon as it is 6 o'clock, it will start injecting 35 ml of insulin in the patient's body. But once this got hacked, and instead of this 35 ml, they changed it to 50 ml, 60 ml, like that. So think of the insulin which is going in the patient body, it's beyond its requirement, and it resulted into a very bad result. So that was possible. So whatever the attacks we have discussed throughout this presentation, I have tried pasting it here. So your attacks, they are at application layer, middleware layer, network layer, perception layer. Application layer is definitely the one like your cloud from where you work with the data. Middleware layer, that is your APIs, those they are used in order to connect to database and security. Network layer is your complete IoT enabled network. Data is getting transferred from the sensors to Arduino boards to routers and then to switches and then getting transferred to cloud. Perception layer is actually your sensors. So application layer, code injection, buffer overflow, sensitive data permission manipulation, phishing, authorization, authentication, it is possible. Middleware layer, flooding attack in cloud, malware injection, signature wrapping attack, web browser attack, SQL injection attack, it is possible. And when we go for the network, it's a denial of service, syllabi, sinkhole, sniffing, traffic analysis, replay, man in the middle. These all are attacks, those they are possible. Perception layer, which is your all small sensors, unauthorized access, tag cloning, eavesdropping, RF jamming, spoofing, slip derivation attack. This is possible. Slip derivation attack is, I as I said, the devices, those they slip for some time and they save their battery and then they again wake up and they start transferring information. But in slip derivation, what they do is they change the sleeping time of a devices, and if sleeping time is changed, the device is awake for the more time, more duration, and it results into the reduced life of that sensor. So if you see, this portion is related to a software, this portion is related to hardware. Software portion, yeah, definitely it's more of kind of the program or your web application interfaces, and you are securing your web application, you are securing your interfaces, that portion goes here. So this portion is like we are quite aware of it because we work with many web applications, many mobile applications. And the second half, which is the hardware portion, which is actually related to the network which is deployed. So now question comes is, if I have to secure all these things, what to be done? So what we need to do is, we need to, whatever network we propose, whatever algorithm we propose, if we are proposing some encryption decryption mechanism, if we are proposing some authentication mechanism, then that needs to be deployed in some of the simulators, and then with the help of simulation we can very well check whether my network is a secure network, and then my network, whatever I have proposed, is going to work well. So one simulator which I am going to discuss, and that simulator is a Koja simulator. So that whatever application you design, first you can simulate it, you can test, do a penetration testing whether any kind of attack is available on my network, and then go for its actual implementation. Because see, you are buying so many devices, you are deploying your application, and after that you can't test them. That is like a huge amount of money which is involved into it. So better is to simulate, in a simulation test everything, and then actually deploy your project. So this Koja simulator, it comes with the Contiki operating system. Again, I repeat, there are many operating systems which are available, but I have selected this Contiki OS. It has a very less storage, 2 KB RAM. It's a 40 KB ROM, and it works basically with your IPv6 and IPv4, and it has a MU-IP stack. See, when we connect our devices, our laptop, mobile phone, we uses a TCP/IP protocol stack. TCP/IP protocol stack on its own, it is heavy. You can't use that TCP/IP protocol stack as it is in IoT network for communication of devices. So you require a MU-IP stack. So that is the MU-IP stack which is available here. It works with all low cost, low power microcontrollers, those they are connected to internet, and that is why I have chosen this. These are the resources like from where you should download it. It's a virtual machine available so that you can very well open it in the VMware. So it's a Ubuntu base, and it's programming which is done in the background for the Koja simulator. It's C, or your entire Contiki OS, it is written in C. It will ask you for the login name and the password. The by default password for it is a user. Then as it is a Ubuntu based system, you can very well check out IP address, MAC address with your ifconfig command, with your netstart command. And when you see the Contiki OS, yeah, let me do one thing, quickly switch to my Koja simulator so that I can show you the things, those they are there. I'm switching to my Koja simulator so that I can explain you things. Is my screen visible? Is my virtual machine visible?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Yeah. So this is what the Koja simulator is. To open this, you have to give ant Koja command on Contiki OS prompt. As I said, it's a Linux, so it's just a command prompt will appear. Write ant Koja. This simulator will open in front of you. I have already opened it because I wanted to save time. It takes little bit time to switch on its all applications. So in this Koja simulator, these are the tabs available. So if I want to start a new simulation or I want to reload old simulation, I can do that. Mode, then the tools, those they are available, setting and help. So suppose that I want to start new simulation. So I'll go on new simulation. It will ask me what name you want to give. So I want to give my simulation name. So if you see this simulator window is divided here, it is my network part. Whatever network I will deploy, it will be visible over here. This is the control of my simulation, whether to start, whether to pause, whether to stop. These are the notes if I want to put during running of it. This will actually give me the mode output. So here all the devices or the hardware which you we use or your IoT sensors, those they are termed as mode. Actually this term is coming from WSN, wireless sensor networks. That is why that word is mode, but they are actually your sensors which you deploy in the network. And this screen will show me the continuous output which is working with which is there with my network. So let us say I'll start with a simple simulation that to just say hello. So again, the hello world is the famous first program for each kind of a programming language. So here new mode. So these are the hardware devices, those they are available. Out of these devices, anyone you can deploy in your network. So basically what hardware you want to use for your application, based on that you should be choosing. So I am choosing a SkyMote. I'll show you the SkyMote how it looks. And this Koja simulator, they have many examples. They are already implemented there. So the Hello World is the example which is already there. So I'll simply show you the file structure. This is my Contiki OS file structure. Apps, code, CPU, doc, tool, all these things are there. Then I can go in examples. In examples, I want to go to IPv6. Then we can go here. Hello World is here. REST-based applications. See, when these devices they communicate, generally they make use of web services in order to transfer data, and maximum times it's a REST-based web services. Those they are doing a good job. So the example for the REST base is also given. Email is also given. Let us see a simple program for Hello World. So I'm opening this. Then you have to just compile that program. So whatever is written there in that C program, everything will get attached to your SkyMote. SkyMote is what? It's my hardware. It's my sensor. So on my sensor, it will put just a Hello World program. It just that is going to say hello. So I'm going to create this simulation. I want 4 nodes to be deployed. What exactly the position I want to deploy? It can be linear position, eclipse, manual position. I'm doing it with the random position, add modes. So now see, these are the 4 modes, those they are added in my network. I'll simply, yeah. So now what all things I want to view? I want to read address, that is the IP address of this particular mode. Then when the simulation start, it will get displayed. I want to see the printf statement, how it is doing hello world. I want to see radio traffic, but I haven't deployed it like a network and those they are communicating with each other because I haven't added any protocol into it. See, when you want your modes or your sensors to communicate with each other, you definitely require a protocol. You require your Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, something, some 6LoWPAN, Some protocol you need to put. At present, I haven't selected anything. I have simply selected a sensor. So it will go and see the, I don't want to see this traffic radio type. Okay, put it radio traffic and the radio environment for each and every mode. So when I start with this is my control, right? Simulation control. So in my simulation control, I'll start. So when I start, see here, you can very well read that what exactly each and every see RIM started. RIM is again it is a mu IP protocol stack. So mu IP protocol stack, as I have already mentioned, IoT devices can't work with the IoT TCP IP protocol stack because it's a heavy, it requires huge memory, it requires huge processing power to work with. They work that is with mu IP protocol stack. So there the word uses RIM address to 200 started. Then the MAC address is given. See, earlier all these devices, they were on 0, but now it is 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. What each of them they have done? They have printed just a hello word. That is what here displayed. So see, CSMM, Contiki MAC, channel check, radio channel, starting with the hello world process, and hello world is deployed. Now I'll quickly go to my, just a second. Yeah, so here it is deployed. So the way I have shown you like my C program, which is running there. So I'll simply show that. I'll open my command prompt. Here I'll do ls. I am just showing how to modify a program which is already written over there. So I want to go to Contiki -2.7 ls. In this, these all are things are there. I want to go to example. So examples ls. I'm purposefully going step by step so that you can see the directory structure which is available. And in this, we started working on Hello World project. So in this, we will go to Hello World. So hello world ls. See here there is a C file available. I'll simply display this C file in front of you. So it's a hello world.c. So it's a simple C program, and in this C program here that is written is display hello world. So it is displaying that. So whatever additional functionality you want to add, that functionality you can very well add here. You can edit this file with gedit. Or with any one editor, you can open, you can edit, save. Whatever changes you are doing, that will get saved. And whenever you start your simulation and when you select this Hello World program, whatever changes you have done in this C file, those will get applied over there. So say I want to apply encryption mechanism. I don't want to display hello world in the plain text format. I want to encrypt it and I want to display. Fine, you can run your encryption module over here. Add your encryption module over here and display the printf statement. Again, when you go to your simulation, here whenever you will add new mode, you will go to create mode, you will add new mode, and here you will browse your program. So if you want it not to be hello world, it's a hello world 1, fine, give that name, save it, select it. Whatever new functionality you have given in that particular C file, that new functionality will be added over there. So this is the way how you can edit. So whatever protocol working this Koja simulator or Contiki OS has given, each and every protocol you can check actually how the code is written. Simply open the C program here. As I have open a C program, check working of each and every protocol. 6LoWPAN, mu IP protocol stack, if it's a file transfer which is happening, how it works, REST based web services, if the UDP server is used, how data transmission takes place, everything is available there in example directory. Open it and try with it. So one more example I would like to take here. Now I'll go with the simple IPv6 broadcast so that I can show you the broadcasting. Yeah, one more thing I wanted to show here is, see, when I click on this particular sensor, the green area is the area where that sensor can transfer a data. Beyond this green area, there is no transmission range for this server. And what exactly the hardware that particular mode has, we can very well see here. Mode information. See here, the exact hardware circuit is also shown. What means, in your project, if you are implementing a hardware, the requirement is of this type, you can very well select this mode, or you can go with another mode which is available. So again, I'm repeating, check out what is your requirement and based on that, go for it. So I'll start with the new simulation. This I don't want to store, so I have removed it. Create a new simulation. And this time what I want to do is, I want to do something UDP broadcast, which is the broadcasting is the common example. So I'll start with new simulation. Sorry, I have already done that. So I'll add a mode here, add mode, create mode. Again, I'll select sky mode. Then I will go to example folder IPv6. So this is the IPv6 which is there. In IPv6, I want to go with simple UDP. See, this RPL, border router, these all are the protocols, those they are available. So everything already implemented there in the Koja. So open it, whatever changes you want to do those changes in the C file and work on it. So now I have deployed this simple broadcast example. So now I'm going to create, let us say 5 modes I want to add. So this 5 modes are added. Again in view, now I want to see IP addresses. Now I want to see traffic because I have added UDP. So I'll be able to easily see what kind of communication is taking place. So see, now I have added this. So if you see in this complete network, communication is taking place with these 3 nodes only. Communication is not going out. It's my UDP, it's my broadcast protocol, but still communication is not going out. Why? Reason is simple. See here, these 3 sensors, they are in the perimeter of each other. These 2 sensors, its perimeter is this much. So this green section, so this 2 is not able to send information to 4 as well. And if we click on 4, see the green area is this, it is just little bit away from this green area, so it can't send. So again, based on which sensor you are using, based on whatever is its range, very well you can adjust those ranges as well. So I'll quickly move this 2 near to 4. See, I have moved this 2 to 4. They have started with the communication with each other. See, again, I will move this 5 quickly towards this 2. See, now they have started sending messages. So now this 5 is a kind of a what I say in the terms of big data, it has a betweenness which is very high, and that because of that betweenness, it is connecting two communities together. My one community is 245, another community is 513. And because of 5, data transmission is moving from 2 to 5, 3 to 5, 1 to 5, then 2 to 5 and 2 to 4. Now at present we haven't added. See, I can see it like it's my temperature sensor, it's my heart rate sensor, it's my body monitor, BP monitor, it's my oxygen meter, and this is my Arduino which is transferring information to actual router. And so everyone is sending information here. Very well, I can put a authentication like for this node should be authenticated, and then they should transfer information here to the my node number 5, and then the node number 5 should start sending information. Whatever information is getting transferred, if you see here, now this is the data which is getting transferred, on which port data is getting transferred, everything is mentioned. It is in a plain text format, but very well the encryption decryption algorithm can be applied. Again, I am repeating, open the C file for this, apply whatever encryption decryption you want, apply whatever authentication authorization mechanism you want, and check out whether it is working in your environment or not. So these are the two small examples which I have tried covering. And likewise, many more things are there you can explore. Contiki OS website, they have their official website on which there are many examples available. Open those, open their C files, read their C files thoroughly. You will be able to work with this. Again, the Wireshark is also given here on this, so that if you want any attack to check, you can do it very well. Is my slideshow visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Should I stop sharing and again reshare? Just a second. Because now I'm moving back again to my PPTs from my Koja simulator. Yeah, I have again reshared. Is the PPT section visible now?
Yes, ma'am. Now it.
Yeah. So this part we have covered there. Everything, this simple UDP broadcast I have shown. Yeah, one more thing I wanted to show here is this is a general skeleton of any Contiki program. As I have already mentioned, it's a C program and it's a multi-threaded operating system. So each and every process is treated as a thread. Each and every process has begin and end. And then you can put whatever C statements you want. So here I have taken one example. This is the temperature sensor which is reading data and temperature sensor which is transferring data. So here the temperature sensor has started reading value. This is, it is doing its analog to digital conversion. Now if I want that data which is captured by temperature sensor to be encrypted, I can put my encryption decryption mechanism over here. So I can write a very well C program for it. It is a humidity sensor code. So humidity sensor here again, it is analog to digital conversion. After that, I can put my encryption decryption mechanism and I can check. And this is what one example I have put, like the authentication. Whatever nodes are doing data transmission, we can check whether those nodes are authentic nodes or not. So my proposed algorithm should work here on this routers, and then they should transfer data to the border router. That also should have the way so that I can avoid different attacks. So this kind of a IoT architecture I want to implement there in the IoT. Yes, we can do it. One proposed authentication algorithm. Actually, it's my research paper, and this research paper I have already published. It is available if you want to read more and understand more about it. So basically, whatever proposal has been given, that proposal is in order to avoid attacks, those they are available on 6LoWPAN. So, and the proposed algorithm was taking care about the less memory which is available, less processing power which is available. So everything was taken care very well. And this proposed system, the analysis which took place is sufficient in order to avoid brute force attack, eavesdropping attack, replaying attack, clone ID attack, and syllabi attack. That is what was the outcome of this algorithm, and this was the network which was deployed. And these are the, like, as I have shown you in the simulation, when your simulation runs. So these were, like, see here, the authorization device sending request for data, sending 65, RFID tag 65 is received. This is what the example of insecure, no authentication is taking place. But there was proposed to have one challenge response protocol, and if challenge response fails, means it's an attacker who is trying to come into my system, don't allow that attacker to come. And if the data is successful, see here the sending reply, then the hash value is also proposed there, so that tampering of data also can be easily checked. So these are the outputs of it. This is for encryption decryption. So see what throughout this session, what we discussed is, we started with IoT ecosystems, seen how attacks takes place. Then we moved on to the vulnerabilities, those they are available in IoT based systems. Then we moved on to actual attacks, those they took place. So after seeing all this thing, question comes is, I want to develop a secure IoT application. So it's clearly divided into two sections. One section is the software part, one section is the hardware part. when it comes to a software part and implementing security of that software part, it's your program, it's your interface, it's your web application where you want to provide security. So it's very well you can do it on your machine. But when you want to secure the hardware side of it, what happens with the hardware side is you actually need to deploy your devices and you actually need to check whether your devices are transferring data, it's in the secure manner or not. So it becomes actually difficult to deploy that network in the real scenario because it's a money which is involved to buy so many devices and to deploy those so many devices and then check. So better option is to go with the simulation. There are many simulators available. I have just taken an example which is a Koja simulator, because what I found is when I was doing my research in this area, Koja was fulfilling all the requirements. Whatever protocol I was trying to test, Koja was giving me a good result. So I prefer to use Koja. But you can go with the any other simulator which you find you are comfortable with. But just a suggestion is whatever protocol you proposed, whatever encryption, decryption, authentication, authorization for IoT network you propose, try to simulate it in a simulator, test it, do its proper penetration testing, and then the same code you can deploy in your IoT network. Towards end, I want everyone to think about this 5 points so that in India we can have a low cost, secure IoT enabled network. So with like as an engineer, it's our responsibility to go with this. So this is all from my side. These are the few references which I have referred. Thank you very much for the patience listening. And this is my mail ID. If you want in future to get connected, you can very well send me a mail. I'll be there to reply. Any question you can ask now. It's open for question.
Now moving to the question and answer sections, there are 3 questions for you. The first one is, can we predict the attack on IoT devices in Koja?
Madam, you are mute.
Sorry, you can predict means you can actually demonstrate, deploy your network, try finding one attacker coming into that network and trying to send information to other nodes. You can't just predict, you can demonstrate actually attack happening. That is what the strength this Koja simulator has.
Okay, next question is how to find different parameters for each protocol implementation.
Yeah, it's a good question. If you see, again, it's a research which is there. There is a research involved into it. There are so many research paper available. Find out see, first of all, you have to read so many papers. Exactly which network you want to implement. For that network, you first read, do the comparative study of all the IoT protocols, those they are available. Then you will be able to sum up. Yeah, for my application, 6FlowPan is good. For my application, MQTT is good. For my application, I may require combination of MQTT plus I require COAP. So once you are done with that, then read about that particular protocol, 6LoWPAN, COAP. There are many lacunas, those they are available in those protocols. Yes, very well, you can propose your own system. Even though there are few proposed systems, those they are available for encryption, decryption, you can go with the better one. You can say like my system is going to take less time as well as less memory, and my system can give a good result in this particular network.
Okay, ma'am. And the last question is, do we have to use only lightweight algorithms for encryption?
Yes, it is better because your all devices, those they are involved in IoT network, they are having less power, processing power, as well as less memory. So it is better to go with the lightweight. One more thing is nowadays maximum of them, they have like your chip itself is going to do encryption and decryption. Means your hardware itself has a built-in capability to do that encryption and decryption. That is also what gaining popularity nowadays.
Okay, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Again, I thanks on the behalf of Saket to Dr. Anjali ma'am for your valuable time and making this session more successful. So please accept this token of appreciation from our department, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome, ma'am. So now for the participants, the feedback link is provided in the chat box. So please fill this feedback and please don't leave this session. Just stay tuned for the online test orientation by Mr. Chetan Mahajan. Thank you, guys. Chetan sir, over to you.
Yes. Yeah, good morning, everyone, all the participants. I'm happy that you all are attending these sessions very carefully. And today is the last day of our STTP, that is refresher program. Today, as per the guidelines of ISTE, we are going to have an online test. And the online test is compulsory for all the participants because as per the guidelines of ISTE, minimum 80% attendance in all the sessions and minimum 60% marks in online test is necessary for getting the certificate. I'm repeating this again, minimum 80% attendance and minimum 60% marks in online test. So we have done around 18 sessions. Last session is remaining, that is after this particular session at 1:45 we will be having the last session of this refresher program. So there will be online test based on all these sessions. The link of all these session recordings and the resource material is mailed to you on 25th of November. That is on the third day of this refresher program. So from there you can get all the resource material of this particular refresher program. And if you are having any doubt regarding any of the session or you missed any of the session, then you can just log on to our YouTube channel. The link is provided in the resource material mail only. And from there you can have the entire playlist of all the session recordings, and you can watch those recordings over there. The link of the online test will be mailed to you by 3:25 p.m. and the link will be enabled from 3:30 to 6 p.m. So meanwhile, at 4 p.m. we have our valedictory session. So during valedictory, you will have to be present in the valedictory session, and that is why the link of the online test will be open till 6 p.m. The time for entire online test is around 1 hour. You can attempt that particular test as per your convenience. So maybe from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. you can attempt your test, because at 4 p.m. there will be valedictory session. So there will be 20 questions in the online test, and each question will carry 1 mark. And resubmission of this test will not be allowed. So once you have submitted, you will have while submitting you will have to check whether all the questions are marked, and then you will have to submit it. Once you have submitted, you will not be allowed to resubmit the test again. So I wish all the very best to all the participants for this online test, which will be starting from 3:30 p.m. today, and you will receive the link as I mentioned at 3:25 p.m. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. And the next session will be